You're not going to believe this. In a culture that seems to be in a spiral to the social and political left, even someone like Barack Obama is starting to sound at least moderate, or, well, at least on the issue of free speech and political correctness, because I think this next clip from Obama reveals that for the modern woke left, the liberals of yesterday have become the center or even right wing of today. I know I need to explain why this is, but watch this before we get into it.
This idea of purity and you're never compromised and you're always politically woke and all that stuff, you should get over that quickly. The world is messy. There are ambiguities. Yep. People who do really good stuff have flaws. People who you are fighting may love their kids and, share certain things with you.
In an America where the Overton window has shifted so far to the left, perhaps Barack Obama no longer recognizes the kind of country he inherited from Bush back in 2008. That's been demonstrated by the fact that many left-wing commentators and publications have come criticizing Barack Obama for apparently not staying true to the liberal credentials that he ran on. CNN even went as far as questioning whether Obama is actually a conservative. But if you were to ask me, I think it's not him that has abandoned true liberal positions, but it's a new crop of generation that has gone farther to the left thanks to the educational system and the societal impact of social media. Take one issue, for example, which is the idea that free speech is a necessary mechanism for maintaining political dialogue in America. It's a core value of the country rather than being a partisan political point, and yet sadly today, free speech gets construed more as a battleground between the oppressor and oppressed, and certain voices need to be magnified or shut down to reach some notion of social justice. That is the core of where political correctness and cancel culture comes from, which is also something that Barack Obama's spoken out against.
There is this sense sometimes of the way of me making change is to be as judgmental as possible about other people. And that's enough. Like if I tweet or hashtag about how you didn't do something right or used the wrong verb, or then I can sit back and feel pretty good about myself because, man, you see how woke I was? I called you out. Let me get on TV, watch my show, watch Grownish. That's not activism. That's not bringing about change.
Now, I don't quite believe him, and I believe he's a hypocrite, but you have no idea how refreshing that is to at least hear from me. Because that's one of a few points that both ends of the political spectrum should be able to find agreement on, but I think there's something else at play in the American political sphere that we need to explore. As the culture and society move further to the left, mostly driven by a new bubbling youth, it has been shown that people are more likely to grow out of the young liberal phase with age into a more centrist worldview. That's what research from the Chicago Booth Review suggests that studied political affiliation among Americans over the last 5 decades. In the age bracket under 25 years old, a third are likely to reportedly be liberals. That figure shrinks to a quarter among 45-year-olds, and then to just 20% among people in their 70s. It's clear this political distance is making a lot of people realize that the younger generation is moving further left on vital social issues that even they were growing up. And it seems like Barack Obama's one of them, allegedly. For example, watch him tell a group of young students how important it is to reach the other side, knowing how it's a generation most tempted to box themselves up into an ideological bubble.
Sometimes, there are folks on college campuses who are liberal and maybe even agree with me on a bunch of issues who sometimes aren't listening to the other side. And that's a problem too. I was just talking to a friend of mine about this. I've heard some college campuses where they don't want to have a guest speaker who, is too conservative. Or they don't want to read a book if it has language that is offensive to African Americans or somehow sends a demeaning signal towards women. And I got to tell you, I don't agree with that either.
It's ideas like this that help make Obama a relatively less divisive figure, because at least you get to hear an appreciation and recognition for the ideas of free speech that lie at the root of what makes this country great in the first place. In fact, I think Barack Obama recognizes that the left, which has traditionally championed free speech and liberal democracy, has forgotten those core tenets by being subsumed by resentful power-based ideologies that are almost Marxist in its tenor. That's why just a few years ago he made a call to the Democratic Party to stop moving too far to the left, reminding them that, quote, "we have to be rooted in reality." The average American doesn't think we have to tear down the system and remake it. Even if you look at Obama's track record when it comes to policy during his presidency, many political centrists or even people on the right of center may find him a more agreeable figure than someone like Joe Biden right now. For example, on the issue of immigration, Obama's 8-year presidency saw more than 3 million deportations, which is something that Donald Trump could only hope to rival. On things like the climate change agenda, even though Obama was very much into renewable energy and carbon mitigation plans, he still understood the need and necessity of fossil fuels like oil and natural gas in the short term, before civilization could make that seismic shift. In that sense, Obama of the last decade would hardly be met with such enthusiasm in the political climate of today, and that's a sad reflection on where this country is going. For example, take this message that he's giving college students in a place that is often replete with safe spaces and trigger warnings.
I don't agree that when you become students at colleges, have to be coddled and protected from different points of view. You know, I think that you should be able to, you know, you should invite anybody, anybody who comes to speak to you and you disagree with, you should have an argument with them. But you shouldn't silence them by saying you can't come because, you know, I'm too sensitive to hear what you have to say. That's not the way we learn either.
Apart from Barack Obama's questionable record on foreign affairs, economic policy, or interventionism abroad, perhaps this understanding is at least one redeeming quality about him. Obama understood the need to have overarching, uniting ideals in the country, or else it would start tearing at the seams. And he did so while being articulate and eloquent, which perhaps everyone can say they've been missing in both our last presidents. All in all, I think it's statements like this that are going to rile up the far left, since Obama has not moved along far enough with them on the political spectrum, and that's one thing about him that everyone across the political divide can respect.